Hello everyone, this is Isidore and this is part 3 of my Vermintide Beginner's Guide. During this section I'll be primarily discussing the combat mechanics and the loot mechanics behind the game. Ranged weapons are your safest method of dealing with Skaven. Outside of a few special Skaven, none of them have ranged weapons, so using a gun or bow you can safely thin out the horde from afar. However, once you get surrounded, it becomes increasingly hard to use a ranged weapon effectively, which is when melee combat comes in. Melee combat is by and far the most important facet of the game. It lets you kill Skaven the fastest, it's not ammo dependent, and most melee weapons can cleave through multiple Skaven at once. Your chosen weapon will determine your role in the group. If you're using fast weapons such as dual-wielded swords, your job is to kill Skaven as quickly as you can, utilizing the high attack speed of your weapon. If you're using two-handed weapons, your job is to hit as many Skaven at once when hordes try to surround the group. If you're using sword and shield, you want to protect your allies by blocking hits coming your way and pushing back large groups of Skaven. Blocking is done by holding the right mouse button. This will absorb attacks heading your way from the front, allowing you to avoid damage. However, 3 shield icons, or 5 if you have a shield, will appear in the center of your screen. These indicate your stamina. When you run out of stamina, you can no longer block. Learning when to block is important as every bit of health you have is precious. Try to time blocking so that you only block when you're about to take a hit you can't otherwise dodge or avoid. Shoving is what you do if you hold down the right mouse button and then press the left mouse button. It causes your character to push, which hits all Skaven in front of you, even with weapons with low target stats, and knocks them to the floor. Pushing is really powerful against large Skaven hordes, as you can effectively stun many Skaven at once. But shoves have very limited range, deal no damage, and consume 1 full stamina per use, which means you also can't block as much if you're actively shoving. Especially shield users will find shoving a vital part of their kit. Dodging is done by holding block and then pressing spacebar. This rapidly moves your character in whatever direction you're moving in, allowing you to avoid enemy attacks. Dodging is especially important when facing the Rat Ogre. Note that the Bright Wizard's ranged attacks are slightly more unique than those of other characters, as she uses no ammunition. Instead, she has an overheat bar that fills as she casts more spells. Once this bar gets too full, she will start taking damage over time until she cools down, so don't use too many ranged attacks too quickly. Melee attacks, however, will not fill her overheat bar. If you hold R after the Bright Wizard filled up her overheat bar, she will rapidly cool herself down. But while doing this, she won't be able to attack or otherwise defend herself, and will move a lot slower than normal. So try to time your cooldown periods in between moments of safety. When I'm using either ranged or melee attacks, please be aware that headshots always deal more damage. Some weapons that have the headshot special effect deal even more damage than normal when headshotting. If you're having trouble landing headshots with ranged weapons, stop moving and use control to crouch. Both of these things increase your accuracy. Once you're up for a bigger challenge, such as Nightmare difficulty and above, please be aware that at this difficulty and higher, all ranged weapons and bombs cause friendly fire. Avoid hitting your teammates, especially if you're using area of effect ranged weapons. Looking at you, Bright Wizard. An important facet of combat in Vermintide is that the horde will always try to surround you and attack from all sides. You are but one man, or woman, and you can't watch your own back. As such, your team needs to work together to fight off the horde. If you see Skaven trying to attack your buddy in the rear, cut them down before he gets backstabbed. Similarly, many special Skaven are almost impossible to deal with on your own, as they render you helpless. As such, don't run away from the group. Always stick with the group. I can't stress enough how important this is, because if a packmaster or a gutter runner catches you while you're far away from the group, there's almost no way for them to come save you. When your health gets reduced down to 0, you will be on the ground helplessly bleeding out. Your teammates can try to save you by approaching you and holding the E button. But this takes a few seconds, and if they get attacked in the process of helping you back up, they will be interrupted. Even if you do get helped up, you will need to find medical supplies soon, since the new health your character got from reviving is grey health, which decreases over time until you have but a sliver left. However, if you use a healing item while you have grey health, it will turn whatever grey health you have remaining into non-decaying green health before healing you. Another important detail is that a player can only get downed 3 times after they use their last healing item. On the 3rd down, you instantly die without bleeding out first. Dead teammates can be rescued later on, but your team will have to do without your dead buddy until you find him again. If allies are on the ground and bleeding out, do whatever you can to protect them until you have an opportunity to revive them. Non-special Skaven will attack down teammates and drastically shorten their bleed out timer with every hit. A teammate surrounded by rats when downed will not last long. Lastly, there's the loot system, called Ronald's Bones. At the end of every successful mission, you get to roll 7 dices, each of which can either be a hit or a miss. On your right, you'll see a ladder of goodies which you can earn, and every hit pushes you up by 1 on that ladder. The best, rarest weapons will be at the top of the ladder, so rolling higher is better. Obviously, this is incredibly luck-based and you may find yourself rolling squat several times in a row, but there are a few ways to improve your odds. You do this by gathering loot dices, tomes, and grimoires. Loot dices can be found randomly in chests or carried by sack rats, and when picked up, don't take up any inventory slots. Tomes and grimoires are both found in static locations in every main mission and have to be carried to the escape cart. Tomes take up your inventory slot for healing items, so you won't be able to carry medical supplies or healing draughts and a tome at the same time. However, you can still pick up a healing item when carrying a tome. This drops the tome where the healing item was, so don't forget to pick it back up after healing yourself. Grimoires are harder to find than tomes and take up your potion slot, but they are much more punishing to carry, reducing the maximum health of your entire party by 33% per grimoire. Each main mission has 3 tomes and 2 grimoires, with a possible maximum of 2 loot dices, though loot dices are not guaranteed to be found. Loot dices, tomes, and grimoires replace the dices you normally roll with Ronald's Bones, having a much higher chance of scoring hits than normal dice. Normal dice have a 33% chance of scoring a hit, loot dice a 50% chance, tome dice a 66% chance, and grimoire dice always score hits no matter what side gets rolled. That's it for my beginner's guide to Vermintide. I hope you all learned something, but before we leave, there's one last thing I'd like to tell you before you jump into the game. Please don't close the card on your teammates. Just please don't. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this guide, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're looking to support me in producing more guides and more content, please visit my Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and see you all in my next guide.